That's on your side.
Liar. It's on yours because I heard it. Anyway, this is Stoic Calm and Emotional Leftist on X, part 50. And this is going out live on YouTube and all of our X, formerly known as Twitter.
That's right. Transparency and merit with Brian, and I'm JP. And tonight, Stoic Calm, an
Yes,
emotional leftist on X Part 50. I know you
yes,
just said it, but I'm kind of catching up to the whole series.
yeah, and it's something I guess we got a lot of listens last time,
Yes.
and Wilford Brimley. By the way, I had to add a retraction. Beppe is not Wilford Brimley's rabbit. That is not Beppe. Um,
In fact, my very first hunch was right if you go back and listen.
I think your hunch was absolutely correct, Joey. Um, but I wanted to kind of get kind of back on things, and I have a lot of anger at leftists and the fact that they deny things, and at times can be violent. But I have to think, what is the best way to resist, and it is through economic means, and that the pen is mightier than the sword. A lot of people are afraid of these individuals because they attack economically. They've been known to say things. Uh, does your employer, does your employer know what you talk about online? And they will absolutely threaten you.
Dirty business right there. Dirty business. What does anything like that have to do with work or even performance at work? Ridiculous, absurd, threatening, evil, vile, angry, distorted, twisted. Yeah, and all that.
And for me, I think that these people are extreme egotists, and they seek to harm those that they disagree with and those who speak out vocally against their cult. And I do believe that a lot of them are they're cult members. And it's best to ignore cults, and sometimes you gotta just kind of retreat. You either resist, and if you cannot resist, you retreat. And you retreat, if the cult owns it, then the cults own it. And we'll start doing live shows where we do call-ins later on. I'm gonna start scheduling shows more frequently, and just when I'm off work, I think that's one of the things that I'm just gonna start doing. Um, but I believe that
Well, I just wanted to say about the cults. Like I feel like cults have been nothing more than sort of like data mining experiments. It's somebody kind of gets a thread on the current whatever states or state of existence is in play, and they try to capitalize on it, and most times they fall flat, or even worse, they show up to be possibly parts of certain types of psychological operations.
I believe that people believe oftentimes what they're uh, fighting for and what they're fighting about. And I mean, the thing of it is, when people are proven wrong, that's not enough to convince them. A lot of times it takes, when you're in a cult, they'll, and they brainwashed you. It takes a lot to get out of that cult mind thinking, and a lot of times it's things that that happen to them personally, where they start to reevaluate things. Sometimes tragedy happens, and it's a painful process.
Okay, I'll go a bit deeper here. About 45 years ago, um, maybe even a little longer, 46, Jim Jones was mega, like that was the news right there. That was
I
every.
remember that.
I barely do. You were a couple years older than me at the time, so yeah, that makes. What were your impressions of it? I do remember through even the '80s, that was still kind of a creepy story, but very really interesting if you were young. But go on.
I remember, I was in San Diego when it happened, and I believe I was in San Diego when it happened, and we were watching the news unfold. And then I remember the Jim Jones Powers Booth played him, I think, a year or two later. Uh, Played him in a miniseries, and
Well, there's been many. There's it's another one of those characters that has been rehashed and redone multitude of times since then, and there's endless numbers of documentaries about Jim Jones, and we probably had different methods of kind of taking in the information, but even from a pretty young age, I was already kind of looking for like what really went down, and so I was always digging and digging until I came up. I think the last time I was really into it, I listened to this woman named Mae Brussel. She was kind of like, have you ever heard of her? May Mae Brussel was Art Bell before Art Bell. She was this kind of really interesting woman from Carmel, and she would cover all these topics. And it came clear to me just listening to those tapes and that the whole thing was a put up. It was a put up, and even back then, she was definitely had a progressive mind and was kind of taking that path even then. But I think she had started facing a lot of censorship.
well, what I gained from the story of Jim Jones and what I know about him, he is what leads to pathological white guilt. And did you what happened to our? What were you doing, Joe? You took off.
Oh, my bad. I don't know what happened here.
Jeez,
There we go.
you're Jim Jonesing me. No, but in my opinion, Jim Jones is, the pathological white guilt that a lot of leftists have, and they act in the same cultish manner. You and I saw it out there personally, the kind of behaviors that they would enact, and uh, they would basically have chants, white silence is violence, and other cult like things that were hyperbolic. And if you knew any of those members, if you went to question any of them, they acted like the cult sort of mind. And I don't
Oh
know.
my, and you're always so hyperbolic.
Most of his followers weren't white. Yeah, that's true. They weren't, but they were still. I mean, people that are brainwashed aren't white or black. But he did have quite a few white followers, and it was white guilt, and I don't know if you would call it black empowerment. I mean, it was a religious aspect to that. There are other there like to me the BLM movement is kind of similar, but I don't think it's as destructive, but it certainly does have its ego, its egotism and narcissism are strong in those movements. There is a person, Disaffected Podcast, and he basically says that a lot of these woke leftist movements are filled with people with cluster B personality disorders. And I wouldn't say that. I would say they exhibit those behaviors, but I wouldn't diagnose them. But they do have a behavior that resembles toxic, toxic cult-like and toxic egocentric sorts of behavior. And I don't know if you have a response on what I've said. But oh, by the way, me and you also, we caught someone stealing from the store from a store today. They were walking out with
I
some stuff.
did. It was unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it was a little drugstore, and the shelves were already, I don't know, maybe 70% stocked. There was a lot of gaps, and it's clear that the store is kind of going downhill quick. And somebody just picked up their items, went over to the self checkout area,
Mhm.
pretended to swipe things, picked it all up, and just walked out. But the lady had watched the whole thing working there. So she started kind of yelling over to him to come back. And then the last thing I saw her say, she just kind of peeked her head out the door and said, "Don't come back." And I was just like, wow, that was like less than a slap on the wrist.
This is the post. This is the post-COVID, post-Floyd world, and this is what we're living through right now. This is a kind of
Can't breathe.
yeah. We're seeing a lot of lie. I mean, we're seeing information out there that again that cannot be questioned. And look at what's happening in Brazil right now. Brazil has, I think, Brazil has um, basically censored X, and you cannot. I think they have to do a certain type of VPN because the government doesn't want. They want to control the information, and this is what the left wants to do. They
I
want.
I
Yeah.
thought you were going to talk about the butts of Brazil, and you really threw me a curveball there.
Well, I mean, we'll go into that show, Brazilians and the aspects of Brazil that is quite unique and different, particularly if you are concerning adult entertainment. We can talk about that, but that's for a different show, maybe a Mr. Midnight movie show that is for adults only. Uh, I mean, and I'll get into that, but I don't want to. I don't want to muddy the waters right now. Uh, I just wanted to basically, and I'll more information will come out.
Well, listen. You were talking about you were talking about some comedians earlier,
All right.
and I just listened to this real quick. I'm probably the most improvisationally talented comedian in the world right now. Okay, Owen Benjamin is such a douchebag. This guy, these guys are not funny, and how they get, you wouldn't believe the backstory with this guy, Brian. And I have to get into that one day. The Owen Benjamin saga is absolutely epic.
Mhm.
Okay, he created an idea called Bertaria. Bertaria. All of his subs were bears, so he had this kind of cultish kind of following. Everybody was like a certain bear, whatever. They had like bear names, and he was Big Bear. I mean, anyways, there's just so much going on with that story. But he sends out this idea about Bertaria, and the way it went, where his subs would send him $400, and I mean, he had thousands of fans, and so he was going to buy swaths of land all the way across the country, and kind of sew them together as this Bertari idea, and his subs could go to these sites and camp and do stuff. I mean, I kind of watched in horror during that time. It was a few years ago now. I would watch in horror because I caught wind of this, and I was just kind of watching it, and of course, he ended up leaving L.A. and he had this mini sort of kind of career in Hollywood. So he goes to New York and buys a farm. He buys a farm with the money, and he's got all these kids now and stuff. And I mean, it was just such a weird, cultish, grifting scammeroo. And I found it really interesting, and so I think that the shit is actually hitting the fan recently about this now a few years later, and a lot of people felt scammed and stuff. So anyways, it's neither here nor there, except that this guy has the nerve to go on and talk about how funny he is, and he's just such a ridiculous kind of character. And he's in the Crowder kind of I would say he's in the Crowder level of things. Maybe Crowder's got an edge, but I don't know.
Someone's saying why I'm always knocking on the fridge before opening it. Now, I was going to say this one. Will they learn their actions have consequences? Number one, who decides these consequences? And I don't agree with the people who are making consequences. And the people who are making consequences also perhaps need some consequences made for them. We've been taking caca lately, and it's time for them to taste what they've been serving the people. And take second helpings of it. If you think it's so good, yum, 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 eat it down. You'll like it. Or you should like it.
Yum, 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 yum,
Everything you dish out. You should.
Yum, yum. Do you have any jelly fills? Yum, 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 yum.
But what was I gonna bloviate on? Oh, well, we were talking about comedians. The great George Flaherty. Not Colin Flaherty. The great Colin Flaherty is also dead. He was the person that wrote the book White Girl Bleed a Lot and Don't Make the Black Kids Angry. But Joe Flaherty, the SCTV comedian, I think he was the funniest member of the SCTV crew that was in Canada that basically played on. I remember it came on Channel 9 when I was a kid, and I laughed hysterically. Joe, did you they had Count Floyd.
Oh man, he was amazing.
Guy Caballero.
I'm glad you think that too. I don't know if he was my favorite. I think when I was really young, I liked those two fools from Canada. They were pretty. Great White North were really good, but Flaherty was so versatile, and he ended up in a ton of sketches just because he was awesome at it. He could do anything.
Yeah, I thought he was great with. Well, to me, Guy Caballero when he played, Guy Caballero. I don't know if you could do that today. For me, I'm so sick of all these people who've destroyed comedy. Like I said, this whole post-Floyd society, you guys stink. You suck. Leave us alone. We want to do our own comedy. We want to do our own jokes and be free. Just go away. Go away. Do your own, we won't bother you. You don't bother me. You go to some of them, some companies should just be boycotted though. That's my opinion. And if you do me harm, litigation, and the pen is mightier than the sword. And that's something that Joey has brought forth. The pen is mightier than the sword. And
yes, and I'm also bringing forth this.
And now the president and owner of SCTV, Mr. Guy Caballero.
All right.
Oh, that was. Yeah, the rest of that was really great, though.
Yeah, it's great.
Great. He was amazing. absolutely amazing. And
I think you tend to. I think you're going to attract a lot of crazy, polarized people over time with your views because you are a bit of a warmongering, a fearmonger. Not that far from Tim Pool. Your response?
well, my opinion is that Tim Pool is one of the best red pills out there. Look, I don't agree with everything that Tim Pool says, but he was the one who really said, these people are cults. These people with Trump derangement syndrome and these leftists, they are cults. They act in a cult-like fashion.
Yes, they do.
And he's correct on that. And to say I'm a warmonger, I don't believe we should ever go to war with these. I mean, with regard to self-defense, but my opinion is litigation, boycotts, litigation, and blacklisting. Some of them are have inflicted a lot of pain, and I think justice may be due for that. But that's just hopefully. But sometimes justice never comes. You know, bad people die, and they live longer than those they've harmed, and they never get justice. I heard that what was it? Joseph Mengele died in a swimming pool. Anyway, Joey, is there anything to add before I call the show a day? Pepe Grillo.
Yes, yes, yes. Beppe Grillo is finally here. Welcome.
I want to apologize because he believes he was defamed the last show. He was accused of being Wilford Brimley, and he's not. Oh, Jesus Christ. Will he go to hell? Just go to straight to hell.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna lighten the mood today. Willie's a piece of shit.
I wanted to say that I was recently watching an SCTV show, and it was a takeoff on Pippi Longstocking, and the name of it was, I think it was called Pippi Long Socks. I don't know why I found that name to be funny, but it made me laugh. Anyway,
Greta Thornburg. If they used a Greta Thornburg type of character to play Pippi, that might have been kind of funny.
that would, you know what? That is an idea. We should do a Greta. We should do a Greta. By the way, Joey and I are both working on a Greta Thornburg song
Yes,
and a Tammy Bankman-Fried song.
they're coming soon.
They are coming.
Beppe Grillo does a wonderful impression of Greta.
Yeah, and he also sells vapes to the kids on the side. They love the cherry flavors, and
Yes, that we noticed those two today in that video. There's some video of Greta getting thrown around by the police, and we get to see her curves for the first time, I think.
She has grown into a woman. I also want to add: is Beppe still president of what the hell's the name of that?
Meat Spin.
Meat Spin. Yes, he's still president of Meat Spin.
I believe so. I think he's nearing retirement. He's going for the maximum, monthly check. So he's putting in overtime at a very, very matured age.
Meat Spin videos. You can find him in his van, where you can find him in any impoverished place, selling Meat Spin videos.
I do. I would love to watch some Meat Spin and eat spaghetti with that guy.
You know what, Joey? I was watching a thing about Fresh Chef Boyardee, and they did a recipe of his of bolognese that looked absolutely delicious.
Chef Boyo Bolognese, huh?
Chef Bolognese. You know what? I think we should just make a bolognese. Just a bolognese sauce by itself. I think protein style. If
Like a
I
Mr. Midnight Movies Bolognese sauce.
bolognese sauce,
Hey, do you like capers in yours, by the way? I love capers.
capers. I don't know.
Wow. You eat so little vegetables, you don't even know what a fucking caper is. What's wrong with you?
I don't know. And he says he invented it during the Civil War, which, by the way, during that time, there were a lot of lonely men. And I think the first meat spin parody was one of Abe Lincoln getting shot. And Pepe actually played John Wilkes Booth. Okay, Joey, is there anything to add before we end this show?
Not really. Willie is really riding the tides of stupidity lately. But other than that, thank you to we got Susan B. Anthony, High Ridge Estates, Beppy. Yeah, some good people here. What's up?
Where's Susan B. Anthony?
I think Wilford Brimley Rabbit is actually named Susan, if I'm not mistaken.
Joey, for $2.
Yes.
Who was the breakout pop star in the movie Desperately Seeking Susan? First major movie.
Well, there wasn't it was one of the Arquette sisters and Madonna.
Okay, yeah. I did not like that film. I thought it was so stupid.
You know what? I was a little younger, of course, and call me crazy, but there was something very alluring about that movie. There was a single from the song. I can't remember if it was
Get Into the Groove.
Yes, Get Into the Groove was an epic video, and my you know what, it caught me a little bit. I actually really was. I loved that. I thought it was really good, and I thought the movie was kind of cool, but I haven't seen it since, and I wonder.
It's free on YouTube.
There's a good chance that movie aged very badly, or maybe it appreciated. I don't know.
I found the film to be even worse than what you probably thought of The Black Hole. Which you didn't like, by the way.
So yeah, maybe did it just age badly, or is it just like the whole thing just sucked?
It's like a bad sitcom, in my opinion.
It is, but I mean, think about those 80s movies were weird. There was nothing serious going on in the 80s. 80s was a giant party, and I'm still convinced of that. There was a lot of money, and there was a lot of cocaine, and there was a lot of party. I wasn't into it. I was too young, but I do remember it being a big blip.
There were films that came out of the 80s that were really, just the underrated classics. I mean, there was Southern Comfort. Do you ever remember a movie with Nick Nolte called Extreme Prejudice?
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, it wasn't. It had great. I mean, it was really kind of I think an homage to Sam Peckinpah, and just really great action in that film, slow motion, gunfights, and the like, and I really enjoyed it. But anyway, Joey, anything to add before we call this show a day?
Tune in again. Make sure you like and like this one. Just hit it.
Hit a thumbs up, for God's sake.
Just hit it.
Instead of hitting the thumbs down, hit a thumbs up. Same with you, Wilford Brimley, on our YouTube page. And also, if you're listening to this show on Twitter, give it a thumbs up. Huh? Come on. Manja.
Manja.
Fatty Arbuckle was a great actor. He did nothing wrong. All right,
Yeah.
guys. Like, subscribe on all my Twitter pages. I'm on my Twitter, my YouTube. Of course, my YouTube channel is Walk Woke. My X pages are also Transparency and Merit and Mr. Midnight Movie and Walk Against the Woke, which is also Walk Woke at Walk Woke. Anyway, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Anything to add, Joey, before I call this show a nighter?
Well, not really. I think we're going to continue to do some pretty regular shows.
As you can see, I'm already relieving gas.
All right, Joey, I'm calling it a day.